Hello everybody, it's Peter here from Anota, and I'm here today to show you through our Verto accounts payable process demo. So today I'm going to be showing you through the integration we have between our DocuWare system and our SysPro system. Now DocuWare is our DMS that we're using and SysPro is our ERP that our account side use. Now we do support multiple different ERPs, it's just SysPro happens to be the demo system that I have here today for you. So to begin with, I'm going to show you inside my SysPro quickly to show you that it is all completely empty. So I'm going to run a very quick supplier query on my two suppliers, which is 1027 and 1028. So my company Slater Harrison, and I have no invoices at the bottom here. And my second customer I'm going to show you today is Pottery Crafts, and I've got no invoices at the bottom here. So this is a completely empty test environment, just so I can show you through how the process is going to go. Stepping across to the other side, I have my DocuWare system here, and I'll quickly talk you through all the different things you're going to find as we come into the system. Now, I've logged in an approver here, so I can show you that later. And I have my accounts payable member here with a couple of documents I've already stored just to kind of speed the process along a little bit. So to log into the DocuWare system, you have a username and password that you are provided for each user, and you enter them and it will take you into this main page. Now, the main page is divided up into several parts. On the right hand side, you've got your document previewer. So if I quickly double click on a document here, it will show me my document on the right. So this is my invoice that I would be receiving, usually in paper or email format. And on the left, we have all of the DocuWare control side of things. So across the top here, we have document trays, which are where we can manipulate and change the documents we have before we push them into the system, and where we'll do most of our indexing. I have the search option at the top here, which will allow me to search inside the file cabinet based on different index fields, as you can see down the left here, of all the data that we capture and how I can search against it all. So if I run a quick empty search here to show you what's inside my system, you'll see I've got no documents stored. Again, it's a blank system ready for this demo. Finally, I've got three lists. I have an awaiting checks list, a posting list, which is empty, and a missing supplier list. Now, I'm not going to show you any of the missing suppliers today, but if there is a new supplier that we've got an invoice for that hasn't yet been registered on our SysPro, documents will show up here so that you can see where they are and you can see that that is updating as it's going forward. And finally, we have tasks, which will show you all of the tasks I have outstanding against my user as we step through the demo. So to begin with, once you've logged into a system, you need to get documents into your DocuWare system. Now you can do this through a number of different methods. We have import locations where we'll monitor a folder on your network. You scan it to the folder and it will pull it into the system. We can monitor mailboxes and pull in directly from email, or you can just drag and drop your document straight on top. Once the document's inside the system, it will appear inside your tray here like these. And if I click on a different one, it will allow me to look at a second invoice. If I click, it'll let me go back to my first. And you can move them between your different trays for the different functionality by simply clicking and dragging. If you have multiple documents you wish to staple together, you can hold Control and click on multiples and use the clip to turn them into a multi-page document. So this is now a 2-page document I can tag through up the top here. And if you push in a large document that has multiple invoices inside of it that you want to separate out, you can do that by using the right click unclip method, and that will allow you to separate out the documents into their different constituent parts. So to start off the process, with Verto we have two different routes that you can send your documents down. We can send you through a fully automatic process and a semi-automatic process, or automatic and manual as we refer to them. Now the automatic process, the last thing you do is in this set of screens. You index a document and that's it. You don't need to do anything more with it. Unless there's a problem, in which case it will automatically move over to the manual side so you can amend it, adjust it, send it out for approval and carry it forward. On the manual side, it does exactly the same checks and process as the automatic side. However, it hands the document back to the accounts team for checking before it pushes forward. It allows you to send it out to authorize the users for approval, and finally it brings it back to the accounts team again before it's eventually posted into the ERP system. So you've always got hands on the document all the way through the process. Now, the reason we split it out in this way is because some people find that a fully automatic account system is quite scary. And it is, really, for a lot of us who have been used to the paper world. The idea of just pushing your invoice into a scanner and it being paid can be quite scary, actually, because you don't know if it's correct, you don't know if it's right. If there's something wrong and it's just gone through, you're never going to know about that. Well, this here is to reassure you that you will know, and we're going to show you how. So the manual side allows you to have that middle step between fully automatic integration and the old manual process that you used to use in the offices. So to show you through the automatic first, because it's incredibly quick and easy, I'm going to click and drag one over into my automatic tray here, and this is an intelligent indexing tray where this document is currently being intelligently indexed by the DocuWare service so that all the data is going to be pulled off of the document. As you can see, it's a green ribbon on the top here. Now the ribbons come in three colours, red, yellow and green. Red is not very confident at all about what's on the document, or I've never seen this before. Yellow is I'm pretty certain what's on this document, but I'd like you to check it anyway. And green is I'm 98% certain I know what's on this document. Can you okay it? And we'll push this through. In this case it's green because this has been trained in our system already. So I'm going to drag this across to my automatic dialog here so I can store it into the system, and it'll come up with all the data it's managed to find on the document, and it'll show me where on the document as well, which is really handy. So the first thing I'm going to note is this is a purchase invoice. The invoice date has been pulled off of the document. As you can see here, it's been highlighted in yellow, and the 30th of the 1st, 2019 matches up. My purchase order number is under my order number. My invoice shows under my invoice number. Supplier name is taken off of the top. The net is from the net column. VAT from VAT. Gross from gross. My tax code is 20%. I've got a 20% tax code. It's in GBP, which it's in GBP. And at the line level, it's pulled out the one line in the table. So I've got my stock code, I've got my description, my quantity is 72, price each is £13.20, and my price total is 950.40. Now you may notice there are 4 decimal places, and the invoice only has 2. It's okay, it just adds in the actual decimal places required by your specific ERP system. In this case, SysPro requires 4 decimal places at a line level, whereas some, such as NetSuite, only require 2, or can in some cases require as many as 13 decimal places. It's fully configurable based on the system it's going into. So I don't have any EC acquisition on this document, and I'm not worried about GL analysis or PPV, so I'm just going to leave those empty. Now, it is worth noting at this stage that we can process more than just a straight standard invoice. I can code a tax code to a line. I can do GL codes at a line level. I can do a different purchase order number. So if I've got 3 lines and one's on a different PO, I can put that PO against that line and it will process them out. I can flag any errors at a specific line level as we get around in the process. I can specify if that line requires GL analysis, that line has a specific PPV GL. If the SKU module is installed, I can match your stock code versus a supplier's stock code, so you don't have to correct them. It will pull back which line on the purchase order it is, and I can even specify which delivery note number I want it to pair against if I need a 4-point match instead of just a standard 3. In this case, however, I'm not going to change any of that. I'm just going to process it through as a normal straight invoice and let it process. So I'm just going to hit store, and that's now gone into the system. That will move over into my lists. Now in my lists here I have the awaiting IC list, which is where Verto is running its checks. So at this stage it's already gone through a duplicate check. It's already gone through a supplier code check, so I know the supply number is against the document. It's now awaiting to go through checks like does it match against purchase order? Does the total fall inside the purchase order amount? Is there a GRN for these lines? Is the line individual values, price each, price total, all within what I'm expecting to see on my GRN? Are they partial matches? Are they full matches? Assuming they are all within tolerances that have been set and that they all match up, it will move across to the posting list. This posting list will then say, okay, as soon as Verto is ready to run on it, it will pick this document up, package it together, and push it into SysPro. And that quickly, I can come back into my supplier query. I can search for my supplier 1027, and at the bottom you'll see an invoice all posted in nice and quickly. It's there, that's it, it's finished. If I want to quickly check my invoice, I can go on my query invoice. It'll show me here, everything is good there. I can even check my GLs, and you'll be able to see that it has split the GLs correctly into my suspense manufacturing GL, and it's applied the notation of my WDoc ID or my individual unique number. Now the notations we can set to anything. Same as the invoice reference for the specific invoice, but for here it is just my document number. So that document has been posted. It's that quick and that easy. So let's go back then and look at the manual process. because this way I can kind of break it down as to what's actually happened a little bit more in the background. So here I'm going to post a Pottery Crafts invoice this time, and I'm going to drag it across into my Verto, my manual tray. This is also going to run intelligent indexing, so the process is exactly the same. I'm going to drag this into my store dialog, exactly the same as the automatic, and I'm going to check the values. Invoice date, matches, PO number, invoice number, supplier name, net, VAT, gross. My GL code has been set, my tax code is set, stock code is pulled out of the table, description has, quantity has, price each has, and price total. So currency is GBP, and everything else is already set. So I can see already that all the data is pulled off, my training is successful, and I can just hit store and this will go into the system. So I hit store, and it's now going to run through the exact same checks as the automatic. It's going to run through the duplicate, it's going to run through the supplier code backfill, all the price each, the price total, the GRN validations, etc. And once it's run through the system, and my awaiting IC clears down, I will have a task come back to me as a member of the accounts team saying, I've got this document and I need you to process it. And this is the point of every demo where I sit there thinking, come on, just a little bit quicker. And my task is in. So if I double click on my task, it will show me my document on the right so I can see what I'm looking at, and it will give me my options on the left. Now, what are the tasks that an accounts member usually has when they get a new invoice come in? Well, usually they'd need to send it out for an approval. So if I've got something and it needs authorizing, I need to pick an authorizer and send it out to them. So you've got the option Assign To, where you can pick an authorizer, Approval 1, and a notes section to say why I need this approving, or if there's anything you need to pass along to them. Sometimes your accounts team can post directly, for example, if it's a regular electricity bill that they're allowed to authorize themselves, in which case we've got the post invoice option where you can just fill the notes in against it and hit go and it'll send it through to SysPro. Sometimes you'll find that there's a mistake on the document. And if you need to change it and send it back to Verto to be rechecked, for example, if there is a typo or your supplier comes through and says, can you add this onto it, etc., you can amend the document and then send it back round for checking. Now, it's not a feature that's used very frequently, but it is something we have seen. Finally, we also have the options of archive and delete. Archiving documents allows you to put them in the system and say, I want to keep this document, but I don't want to do anything with it. Now, this is usually used in cases of things like duplicates, where you want to keep the duplicate copy because it might be better to view, or it might be something like a proof of invoice receipt, but not an actual invoice itself. So you don't want to process it, you just want to keep it. And finally, delete is for when you have a document that's in there that you don't want in the system. For example, if they've sent you a duplicate invoice and it's completely unreadable, you just want to delete the bad copy and keep the good one. That's what delete is for. Note, however, this is the only point in the system where you will be able to delete documents, because once you've sent a document out for approval, it's got an audit trail against it and it's required to be kept for accountability. So at this point where it's new, you can, but after that, you can't. For the demo, I'm going to send this out for approval, because if I just hit post, it'll be a very short description of how this works. So I'm going to send this out to my approval 1 that I logged in earlier, and that is going to leave my accounts team's task list and head straight across to the approver. And here's the approver that I logged in earlier, and you'll see the task has just appeared for my approver saying I've got work I need to do. So my approver will log in. It can be on their phone, it could be on their desktop, however they want to access it, and they will look at their tasks. And in our workflow 9 for approvers, approvers have 4 choices. Approvers can accept, I approve this document. They can decline, I don't approve this document. They can reassign it. You've sent it to me and it actually needs to go to Bill because he deals with all the IT equipment. So they can send it to someone else. Or they can place it in query. Now, in query is really important because the number of times we found accounts teams who have sent a document to an approver to be approved, and it sits with the approver. And the approver may be chasing something up with a supplier, but the accounts team just don't know. And they have to go back to the approver every day saying, where's my document, where's my document, where's my document? This way, the approver can say, I'm querying about the foil, what size is it? And they can type that into the notes, hit confirm, and the task will stay with the approver, but the accounts team will be able to see that on the document. And what I mean by they'll be able to see it is on the document here, there are stamps placed on every time you take a decision. So in this case, you can say the accounts team AP1 at this time and date have sent the document for approval. They've sent it to Verto Approver 1 with a note of please approve. So checking what size the foil is. If I hit confirm, that will send the task into my inquiry. It will leave my task briefly. It will then come back into a task for my approver because my approver is still working on this task. But the accounts team will now be able to see it. So if I go back to my accounts team while that's looping around, and I run a search within our system, so I'm just going to run a blank search again, you can see the two documents that I've stored. You'll notice the status here is in query because the document is in query. If I double click it, you can see here, checking what size the file is. So the accounts team know and they can track the documents through the system at every step. Stepping back to the approver, once they've resolved the query, if they had any, or they've decided what they want to do with it, they can choose either the approved or decline option. So in this case, I'm going to take approve because if I pick decline, again, it'll be a very short demo. This looks good. Now, the notes are completely optional on approved, but on decline, the reason for declination is mandatory. We don't want them sending it back to the accounts and saying, no, decline this, and the accounts team be like, okay, so why? And having to pick up the phone anyway. So you have to on a decline, but you don't on an approval. You hit confirm, and that will take it out of the approver, straight back to the accounts team, and that's the end of the approver's entire interaction, really. They log in, they check it, they approve or decline, and they log out. Back in the accounts team, however, the task has now come back to us and it's on status of approved, so we can see that it has been approved. I can see my big green stamp in the top corner here saying approved, and this looks good, so I'm quite happy with that. And now I have a couple of different options that as an accounts member I can pick. I can send it for approval again. Now, this is useful if a document has been declined, but the reason for them declining it is bad, wrong, incorrect, or it can be sent out again. For example, this isn't my supplier, decline. So, okay, that's fine. It's a bad reason for declining it because there's nothing wrong with it. It just needs to go to somebody else. They should have reassigned it, but they've declined it, so you can send it back out to someone else. Another use of this will be dual authorizations, where you can then send it out to someone and say, okay, so approver 1 has approved it, I now need approver 2 to approve it, and then I can post this. You have the option to post to the ERP, so this will send it through to SysPro. We also have modules that will allow it to be exported as CSV or an XML for integration into other ERPs, such as Sage 50. We can resend it back to Verto at the very beginning of the process. Now, this is only really useful in a very narrow set of situations, such as where it's gone through the accounts team the first time and something has been missed. The approver has picked up on it and said this needs checking, and you need to send it back through to get it validated. For example, if there is a typo and quantity was 5.0, which the approver noticed, then they could send it back and say you need to recheck this, and then you could change it and send it back through as 50 because the document clearly says 50. And you've got the option to archive it. Notice there is no delete option here because it's gone through part of the process, so you've now got an audit trail against it. So in here, I'm going to choose Post to ERP. So approved and valid. In fact, I'm going to leave the typo in just so I can show you. I hit go, I check my lists, go to my posting list, and you can see it's now going into SysPro. If I view the document, you can see here approved and valid with my typo, so the stamps are being generated and placed on as I'm going. And as soon as it's left this posting list, it will be present within SysPro. Now, our usual turnaround time for the Verto wrapper is about 5 minutes, although this does vary based on ERP. We can go as long as every 24 hours if you wish, or we can go up in increments of 1 second from the 5-minute mark. So you can really tailor when each module runs and how it works. If you need checks to be run more frequently than posts, for example, you can have checks running every 5 minutes and posts running hourly, or whichever combination or build you wish it to have. If I check inside my SysPro now, I can check 1028, and you'll see here my invoice has come in and everything is good. If I step back into DocuWare, some of you might be wondering what happens if something goes wrong. Now, it's a fact of life that something always happens somewhere down the process. Nothing is perfect, and you can get situations where you're invoiced the incorrect values, or there's something misordered or something hasn't been GRN'd correctly. It happens. So what we have is we have examples of this. So in here, I have a document which has a problem inside it. Now, I know this is quantity too high because this is one of my test documents, but if I push this across into the automatic process, so this is the process where the accounts team never see the document once it's posted, I can drag this across into my dialog, and I can now start training this document. Now, this is one I've actually not trained specifically so I can show how quickly the training is for the line item data, because it's one thing to say, look, here's what I've trained, but in order to be able to show you how quick it picks up, this one is one I have blank. So invoice date, where is the invoice date on here? It's right there, done. PO number, what is our order number? That's our order number. Invoice number, select our invoice number. Supplier name, select our supplier name. Net, VAT, gross. GL code is set, tax code is set, currency is set. Table, transfer table, and as you can see here, it's tried picking up my table. Now it's not picked up completely correctly, so I can move that column over there. My quantity, I can move this column over here. Quantity is not picking up, so I'll just index that one quickly manually. So quantity 8, and you only have to train a document a couple of times. It'll be between 1 and 5 times to train a document to learn its layout. As you can see here, the price each is picked up as 5 correctly, and the price total is picked up as 40 correctly. So that's how quick I've trained that system into learning this document. And now, the next time I store this document, it will know where to look for all of this data, and it will pick it up and process it. But for now, I'm going to store this in so I can show you how it comes back when we have an error. So I'm going to store that in. Now, the astute of you may have noticed there is a mistake in the supplier name, because here I've indexed it as pottery C space rafts. That's going to come back as an error. And on the document itself, you'll notice that I have a quantity of 10, a list price of 5, and a total of £40. Now, obviously, that's going to come back as a problem. So, what do? I wait, and we'll see how it comes back. The best part about doing these demos is knowing that even if I'm waiting here for a minute for this to loop round, in a real life account situation, you'd never be waiting around. You'd actually be processing the rest of the documents back in the document tray. So all of these remaining files will be ones that you'd be storing while all these checks are going on in the background. So the delay that you see between me hitting store and it coming back in the list isn't something an actual accounts team would notice, which, as someone working with software, makes me really happy to see that it's that sort of smooth transition. So here it's come back, it's told me I've got an error, it's corrected the supplier name for me, and it's told me that I have an error on a line item. So if I hit my Recenter Verto option and I take a look at the lines, it should tell me exactly which line has a problem. And if I scroll across here, quantity too high and no GRN match found. So this is telling me, if I shrink these down so you can see the full line detail, that it's saying on this particular line the quantity is so high that no GRN matches what I'm expecting to see. So here I've got a quantity of 10. Now obviously I know that that's the particular issue because 10 times 5 is 50, not 40, but this shows me exactly where my problem is. So here I now have the option of how I want to address this. I can amend the data and say that this is actually an 8. And then I can make a note on the document stating that I've done that. So if I put a text note on here, it should be 8. Confirm with supplier. That's now written on the document. I can save that annotation and I can send this back around to Verto. Or I can delete it and say, I'm getting a new copy off of the supplier. I don't want to process this version because it's incorrect. I can assign it for investigation. If I need to send it to someone to say, I don't know what's wrong with this, or this isn't my document, etc., can you take a look? I can pick someone, give it to them, and they can go and do the investigation for me. Or, as a last resort, we always have the process manual option at this stage, which is, as an accounts team, I'm not going to process it through Verto. I'm just going to enter it into SysPro myself directly. Now this is here because some documents have errors that are so complicated they have to be done manually. For example, if you've got 30 different lines with 30 different unit types, instead of it being each, you've got shelves of 3, packs of 4, you've got 20 of the same stock code that have different unit prices, different quantities, and different values, etc., etc. It's the very fringe situations that this is for, but it's an option in case the accounts team require it. More often than not, we find that what they will put on the quantity should be, confirm it with the supplier, get the approval to do so, amend it, and then send it back to Verto. In this case, I've amended it, I've sent it back, sent it through to the list, and as soon as Verto picks this document up again, it will run all of the validation checks again, and then send it back to me with the new result. If there's something else that's wrong with it, it will come back with a new problem. If there isn't, it will push it forward through to the accounts team for actioning and authorizing. And that's pretty much the end of my demo for today. So I hope you like what you've seen and you found it all very interesting, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon.